The loonies of Lucasfilm just might be back at it again. The Rey movie now reportedly going to be political, and you won't believe who's saying it. It turns out it's coming out from Daisy Ridley herself. We'll tell you what they're saying and what it means for Star Wars real soon. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we are here to explain entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve and giving you a PhD in understanding the Holly weirds. Folks, as we get ready to dive into today's content, consider clicking the like button, and we shall begin without further ado. This Out of That Park Place is by Marvin Montanaro, and this is going to be one of those that Lauren just can't wait to get into. Daisy Ridley seemingly confirms upcoming Rey New Jedi Order Star Wars movie will be political in nature. Yay! Claims all Star Wars is political. Daisy Ridley has seemingly confirmed that her upcoming New Jedi Order Star Wars Rey movie will be overtly political, following comments made by the film's new writer, George Nolfi. Now, if you're keeping score, folks, depending on how you want to measure this, old George, not Lucas, might be number 3. He might be number 4 in the old writers list of people who have come to the OK Rey Canal and decided that they couldn't ride the horse and they're done with it. They're done. KK sent them out and lassoed another person to come on in. As Lucasfilm struggles with audience fatigue and declining interest, it appears the studio is once again prioritizing messaging over storytelling. I'm shocked. Shocked, I tell you. Nolfi, the third writer to take on the troubled project, well, he's going with 3 instead of 4, recently spoke with Film Stories about his vision for Star Wars, stating, if you think about George Lucas, the 6 movies that he did and the universe that he created, it's actually very steeped in broad notions of politics. It's not talking about today per se, but there's the Empire's Yahtzee/Roman Empire. This perspective was eagerly endorsed by Ridley, that's Daisy, when she was speaking with Inverse. I feel like the Star Wars films are all political, she said. I feel like it's the individual versus the big corporation or the big group, so I think they always have been. And ultimately, I think the films are emotional in that it's good and evil, which we all can relate to very specifically in our day-to-day lives. But yes, I do feel those conversations are woven within the story, and I'm very excited to see what George does. Hold on a second, Lauren. I'm coming to you, but I'm going to make a point here, and you tell me what you think about it. We'll all do the dance with this big idea. And the big idea is that if we go to Daisy Ridley says, she says they're all political, and then she talks about it's good and evil. Lauren, I think this points to the problem. These people associate politics with good and evil. They live in a world in which their political opponents are evil. And they're good. Now, I don't know Daisy Ridley's point of view. I'm not assuming that I know it. But what I'm saying is that politics should be about policy. And in a good world, and when politics is rightfully where it should be, you don't have to wade into the issues of good and evil because you've got political differences, you've got policy differences. But we live in a world today where we're so divided that it is seen in such an abstract and stark way. I think, Lauren, the original Star Wars films are about philosophy and allegory. They're about archetypal storytelling. Lauren, have I missed the boat completely?
No, but I think the problem when you get into a conversation like this is that it's easy to try and simplify it to one thing or another. It's actually more complex than that. I think that Lucas obviously had his own politics, but he wasn't beating you over the head with it, which is part of why it worked. He dealt in kind of general themes of politics and introduced to the audience the idea that perhaps you should be skeptical about your politicians, which I think is good advice, no matter which party that you're part of. At the same time, I would never say that the Emperor and Darth Vader were not evil, and I think that's actually a way that the sequel trilogy went wrong, is they, in a lot of ways, looked like they were trying to make the First Order, the successor to the Empire, sympathetic, and that was never going to work. So I agree broadly with Daisy that yes, Star Wars is political, but it's not overtly taking a side. It's sort of gently nudging one particular side because Lucas did have his politics, but it was not the kind of thing where it was an us versus them kind of a thing. It certainly wasn't a scolding kind of a political diatribe. It wasn't a sit down, Poe Dameron, because you're a toxic male kind of a thing. It was these people who are supposed to be our representatives in government are not acting in our best interest. They are suppressing our voices. They are eating our food out of our mouths. And we have to rebel against them because they will not carry out their duties as our elected representatives. And it is time to stage a revolution to rebuild the foundation of government so that it acts in the people's interests. That's all it is. And it's not a right thing, it's not a left thing. It's a representative government is a good idea. Be skeptical of your politicians.
Kevin, the way I've often looked at it is that Star Wars in its basal form for the first three films, maybe even in the prequels, that it's taking the idea of authenticity and facing that off against oppression. Am I wrong about that, or did you just see this as Democrat versus Republican when you watched the first three the first time?
I think you're correct. I think you're correct. I mean, even when you look at the prequels, again, George has his politics, and when you look at, I think it's pretty easy to see some things that may not have been intentional given how people were during the Bush era. But I look at the prequels more of like a cautionary tale about how if you're not paying attention, how quickly you can lose. You lose your democratic government. And I think where the prequels, or rather where the sequels went off the rails was the trying to insist that the First Order was this mega threat, that they were partially sympathetic, and that that Kylo was this tortured figure, when in reality, if you look at kind of like if you break down like kind of what Lucas did and how he used history to frame everything, it would have made more sense if the First Order was more akin to the Taliban as opposed to just carrying over what was going on with the Empire. It's, yes, you struggled at during the post days of World War II. There was still a lot to clean up, but in reality, when you look at real time, they're not going to still be fighting the leftover painter's henchmen 40 something years later. It would have evolved into something else, and it would have been a little more political intrigue. Just to wrap it up, keep it short, I think George used politics as a mechanism to deliver a little bit of extra intrigue into the story, not do this as this is left versus right, this is good versus evil. And this is where current day Lucasfilm really struggles. They are true believers. They believe in every label that they throw out there, and if you don't agree, you are the issue, not them.
Now, Vash, you were given some data in terms of something that's changed at Lucasfilm. Do you have it ready? Are you ready to put that up on the screen? Give him a minute.
Yeah.
We'll go to, okay. Here we go. Vash, I see you've got it ready. All right, Vash, put that up on the screen real quick, and let's talk for a minute, because something that very few are discussing has changed at Lucasfilm. Vash, tell us what it is.
I guess so. This from Screen Rant. New Lucasfilm era takes shape with major leadership change going back to Disney's acquisition 2012. Despite Thomas Bacon over here at Screen Rant, a surprising shakeup at Lucasfilm sees Rain Roberts depart to Searchlight Pictures, with newcomer Derek Hoffman taking over as Vice President of Development. It feels like a time of change over at Lucasfilm. The various TV shows and movies announced back in 2020 have essentially wrapped up, some completed to mixed success, while others have been canceled. Most are viewing this year's Star Wars celebration as the beginning of a relaunch, with 2026 The Mandalorian and Grogu kicking off a new era for the studio. We also heard that the internal memo within Disney talking about how they're going to be rebranding their efforts regarding stuff like Reimagined Tomorrow, Stories Matter. That was also sent to Lucasfilm, if I'm not mistaken. I do think there's kind of a new era. And here's the thing about Daisy Ridley's comments about the political nature of Star Wars. I do agree with Kevin, I do agree with Lauren that the political aspect of the prequel trilogy, for example, right? That was a framework to tell a story. And while there may have been allegories to maybe something going on, contemporary to that time, the rise of tyranny and the fall of liberty, that's kind of a story that's played out over and over and over again in throughout history, right? And so that's a story that many people can actually resonate with. I think where, like Kevin Apollo was saying, where Lucasfilm can't get out of their own way sometimes is when, I don't know, you have like a Fiona Shaw, for example, for Andor saying, this series is all about Trump. And then guess what? Nobody watches it. That's definitely a big problem. So if this Screen Rant article is correct, that this is a new era for Lucasfilm, well, then I think Lucasfilm could definitely benefit from a new line of thinking.
All right, let me go to Lauren. And Nolan, apologies. I know I'm holding you off a little bit longer than I would like to. I really want to get your thoughts. But Lauren, you understand a little bit more about this person who's left Lucasfilm and why it might be pertinent to the discussion. What do you think about this?
Well, this person is going to be replacing Rain Roberts, who, as the article says, is leaving for Searchlight Pictures. As I understand it, Rain Roberts was sort of a lieutenant for Curie Hart, who previously headed up the story group. I think this is probably a good change. I don't know very much about Derek Hoffman. It does say in this article that he was attached to some of the better X-Men movies, and I know that he did some mutant-related work in TV, but I'm not familiar with his work personally. So I'm kind of looking at this as this may be a change, but it's difficult for me to know what kind of a change it is. I just don't have enough familiarity with his work. I do think it's interesting, though, that he's being brought in what looks like an integral role for content development. And that makes me wonder, are they looking to get away from some of the Filoni stuff? Now, I think that on the org chart, Filoni's probably still a little higher up, but it does make me wonder if they're having some second thoughts about the direction they've been going.
Absolutely. Nolan, let me bring you in and your thoughts on the idea that in spite of everything we're seeing in entertainment right now and Disney rolling back DEI, and by the way, I think they're pragmatically, substantially changing things. Like, I don't see any other way you can look at it if they completely get rid of Reimagine Tomorrow. It's not just a rebranding. Like, they've completely removed it. It's gone. That's something, and I don't see a replacement. Nolan, at a time such as this, what do you think about the idea that Star Wars would double down in the dumb of partisanship?
I think it just, at the end of the day, goes all the way back to leadership. We know a lot of people in organizations or in politics currently are drifting around. They're just going by they had these core values that they were about ready to die on the soapbox for. And then as we see, the moment political leadership changes, they completely zip out of that. As far as, it seems the most stubborn are usually those who have been with a company for a very long time and are a bit older. And as we always say, Kathleen Kennedy likely isn't going to be fired. She's going to be retiring. And I think that also goes back to philosophy in, I don't think she is ever going to change. So until they get her out of the door, I don't think we're going to see this really impact Lucasfilm, because I think if, say, Iger, which I'll believe when I see it, comes to her and be like, hey, we need some major changes going on here, kind of like how Marvel's been kind of course correcting, I think she might opt for retirement before we see that. So until I see the day that the news of her leaving is going to be there, I'm still a bit hesitant. Maybe I've just been a little too damaged at this point to get optimistic for Star Wars.
Yeah, I don't think they've earned back any opportunity for us to just give them, another chance. The chances are done. The chances were done about 4 years ago and we are done until something is done to fix the entire franchise leadership and all. And it is time to put a bow on it, for this one, folks, is a gift to everybody who wants to know exactly what's going on in the entertainment industry. And we are so joyful that you were there to receive it. We hope that you had a great time. An attitude of gratitude on this channel every single time you decide to spend time with us. As we get ready to say goodbye, we only ask a few simple things. Click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. And folks, as you get ready to head out that door, do you have a place on social media that you love to share this sort of thing? Hey, you can make this YouTube video sing by putting it out there for your friends, your family, and for those weirdos who just won't leave you alone. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Why listen to music made by people and companies who really don't like you? Check out Vacation Radio today and prepare for all new content made by the people behind the WDW Pro Channel. It's the place you need for all the music. That should be fun. Hundreds of songs, every genre you can imagine. Listen live on YouTube and enjoy a set list that's always sunny. It's Vacation Radio. What are you waiting for? Every WDW Pro video has a link to Vacation Radio in the video description. Try it out and subscribe today.